Long ago, in a village where the moon never seemed to shine the same way twice, there lived a man whose name the elders no longer dared to speak aloud. He was once a hunter, proud and fearless. But pride, my friends, is a dangerous seed. It grows and it poisons everything around it. This man refused to bury his wives. Yes, wives. Each of them had died carrying his children, swollen with life they would never bring forth. And instead of laying them to rest, as tradition demanded, he carried their bodies into the forest, into a cave no villager dared to approach. He told no one why. He offered no sacrifice, no prayer, no burial rite. He only whispered, "They are not truly gone." From that night onward, the village never knew peace again. The people began to hear it. At first, it was just a cry, soft like the whimper of a newborn, drifting across the night wind. The villagers thought it must be wild dogs, but then they heard it again and again. The cries always came from the same direction, from the dark line of trees where the hunter's cave was hidden. Children woke screaming, swearing they had seen pale hands scratching at the windows. Old women refused to leave their huts after dusk. And the men? Oh, the men sharpened their spears but would not go near that forest, for they knew something was stirring. One night, a brave young man followed the hunter. He waited until the moon was high, until the shadows stretched like black ropes across the earth. And there, he saw it. The hunter carried a calabash filled with goat's blood. He disappeared into the trees. Hours passed. When he returned, his hands were empty, but his chest was smeared red. The young man swore he heard whispers in the trees that night, women's voices, pregnant women calling his name. When the boy told the villagers what he saw, the hunter only laughed. His teeth, too many, too sharp in the moonlight. And the people realized their hunter was no longer entirely a man. Not long after, the first villager vanished. A woman, heavy with child, simply gone from her mat before dawn. Her husband searched the bush, he searched the rivers, he searched the caves, oh yes, even those forbidden caves, but he found nothing. Only the smell of blood, thick and sour. By the second disappearance, the village was gripped with terror. Always, it was the pregnant women who were taken. Always, they vanished without a trace. But the cries grew louder. What had once sounded like infants now sounded older, hungrier. Some nights, the cries turned to screams. Finally, the oldest woman in the village, the one who remembered things others wished to forget, spoke. She said, "You fools, you do not understand. He has fed them, he has kept them, and now they grow." The people asked her what she meant, but she would not answer. She only pointed to the forest and whispered, "They are not his wives anymore, nor his children. They are something else, something that will crawl out when the time is right." And then she said the words that froze every heart in that gathering. "Bury the living before they bury you." The elders' words spread like fire through the huts. Some believed her, others spat on the ground and said she was only stirring fear. But everyone agreed on one thing. The cries from the forest were growing closer. At night, the hunter no longer walked alone. Pale shadows followed him between the trees. Villagers swore they saw swollen bellies swaying unnaturally, and arms too long, too thin, reaching for the sky. Still, no one dared confront him, not until the third woman vanished. This time, the villagers gathered at dawn with drums and torches. They marched to the hunter's compound, shouting for him to appear. When he stepped outside, his eyes were ringed with black, his lips cracked and bleeding, and on his shoulder was a handprint. Not painted, not carved, pressed into the flesh, as if something had gripped him from beneath the skin. They demanded answers. "Where are our women? What have you done?" The hunter only smiled, his teeth shining wet. He said, "I did not steal them. They came to me willingly. They know what grows in the cave. They know the children must be born." The villagers raised their torches higher. Some shouted for his death. But before a spear could be thrown, the hunter lifted his hand, and the cries came again, this time, not from the forest, but from beneath the earth itself. The ground trembled, the torches flickered out, and in the silence that followed, every villager heard a whisper slither across the wind. "Father." That night, 3 young men, foolish but brave, decided to see for themselves what dwelled in the cave. They carried oil lamps, they tied charms around their necks, and they entered the forest, hearts pounding like drums of war. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. The leaves dripped as though it had just rained, though the sky above was dry. Finally, they found the cave. Its mouth was wide, black, and breathing. Yes, breathing, as though the stone itself inhaled. They stepped inside. The air reeked of rot. Bones crunched beneath their sandals. And then they saw them. Bodies. Dozens of bodies. Women, heavy with child, slumped against the cave walls. Their bellies moved, oh, yes. They moved as though something inside still clawed to be born. One of the men dropped his lamp. The flame hissed out, and in that darkness they heard the sound no living soul should ever hear. Wet, tearing, sucking, like teeth dragging through flesh. Only one man returned to the village. His hair, once black, was white as ash. His tongue had been bitten clean off. He could not speak, only point to the forest with trembling hands, eyes wide with horror. When the villagers carried the survivor to the elder, she stared at him for a long time. Then she said, "It is too late. He has done what should never be done. He has sown his seed in death. He has watered it with blood, and now the wombs of the dead are nurseries for monsters." The people wailed. They begged her for a way to stop it. But the elder shook her head. "Do you not see? He is no longer a man. He is their shepherd, their father, their master. Kill him, and the children will rise to avenge him. Spare him, and they will still be born." She leaned close, her voice a whisper sharp as a blade. "The only hope you have is fire. Fire that does not die until every last shadow in that cave is ash. But hear me well, if even one survives, it will not stay in the forest. It will walk. It will hunger, and it will remember every face that denied it a burial." The villagers looked at one another, trembling. And then, from the forest, came a sound that froze their souls. Not the cry of infants, not the scream of women, but the laughter of children. Children who had never taken a breath in this world. The village gathered. Men sharpened spears. Women tied bundles of dry palm leaves. Even the children were ordered to carry pots of oil. They moved together as one body, toward the forest, toward the cave where the hunter's sins breathed and waited. The hunter himself stood watching. He did not move to stop them. He only smiled. And when a boy spat at his feet, the hunter whispered, "Go ahead, burn it. But know this, the fire will not cleanse. The fire will only wake them." The villagers ignored him, but his laughter followed them into the trees. When they reached the cave, they wasted no time. Bundles of palm leaves were set ablaze. Pots of oil were thrown into the black mouth of stone. Flames licked upward, bright and furious. Smoke poured out, thick and choking. For a moment the villagers rejoiced. They sang, they shouted, but then they heard it. From inside the cave came screams, not human, not animal, but something between, high-pitched and shrill, like infants shrieking in rage. The sound shook the leaves from the trees. And then, laughter. Children's laughter. Dozens of voices, rising above the roar of fire. The flames did not consume them. The flames only fed them. One by one, shapes began to emerge. At first, They looked like children, small, frail, stumbling out of the smoke. But their faces, oh, their faces, their mouths split too wide, their eyes too many, their skin stretched and cracking as though it had never belonged to this world. And from their swollen bellies came claws, tiny hands pressed outward, tearing the flesh from within, as though more creatures still lived inside them. The villagers screamed. Some ran. Some dropped their torches, but the elder stood her ground. She shouted, "Do not let them scatter! Strike them down before they take root in the earth!" But who among them had the courage to strike a child's face, even one twisted by death? And as they hesitated, the first creature lunged. It tore into a man's throat, blood spraying hot across the leaves. Another leapt onto a woman's back, its claws digging until her spine cracked like dry wood. The villagers fought back with spears and machetes, but the creatures were fast, too fast. Every wound spilled worms, writhing and alive, that burrowed into the soil. The hunter appeared then, walking calmly through the smoke. His eyes glowed red, his chest heaving with delight. He spread his arms wide and cried, "My children, my wives, feast, and let the village remember your names." The elder fell to her knees. She tore at her hair and shouted to the people, "You cannot fight them with steel. Only fire, only unending fire will stop them. Burn everything. Burn the forest. Burn the ground. Burn even your own homes if you must. Or else these things will crawl beyond our village, beyond our land, until no child in this world is safe." But her warning came too late, for in that moment, one of the creatures opened its mouth wide, far wider than a child's jaw could go, and screamed. The sound shattered lamps. Flames died. Darkness swallowed them whole. And in that darkness, the killing began in earnest. The village burned with chaos. Torches fell. Spears snapped. The air itself seemed to breathe hunger. The creatures poured from the cave, one after another. Some crawled, some stumbled, some leapt upon the huts like shadowy insects. Everywhere there was screaming, men, women, children. The ground grew slick with blood. Chickens, goats, even dogs, nothing was spared. And above it all, the hunter laughed. His body swayed, his arms raised, as though he were conducting the symphony of death. But if you looked closely, his skin was changing, stretching, splitting. Something beneath was trying to come out. The surviving villagers fled toward the river, dragging the elder with them. They begged her for answers. Finally, she revealed what she had long kept hidden. She said the hunter was born with a mark, a curse carried from his mother's womb. He was destined to walk between the living and the dead. The elders of old had tried to bind his spirit, to seal him from both worlds. But when his wives died pregnant, the seal broke. Their wombs became vessels. Their unborn children became doors. And through those doors, creatures not of this earth now walked. The villagers wept. They cried, "Then what hope is left? What can we do?" The elder's eyes burned like fire as she answered, "Sacrifice, a blood greater than his own, a blood pure, untainted. Only then can the spirits be shut again." But whose blood would that be? No one asked aloud, for every eye turned to the children huddled by the river. As the villagers argued, fear grew stronger than reason. One man seized a child by the arm, screaming that it must be done. Another struck him, shouting that no child should pay for the hunter's curse. Soon, the survivors turned on each other, spears raised, knives flashing. The riverbank ran red, not only with monsters' blood, but with their own. Through it all, the elders screamed for silence, but no one listened. And in the shadows, the hunter watched, smiling. The creatures surrounded him, swaying like reeds in the wind, waiting for his command. At last, the hunter stepped forward. His laughter died. His voice shook the ground. "You fight each other while my children grow. "You cannot stop them. You cannot stop me, for I am not what you think I am. I was never meant to be just a man." And then, before their eyes, he changed. His spine arched, snapping bone by bone. His skin split open as if a second body crawled from inside. His mouth widened until it stretched across his face, filled with teeth not meant for human flesh. From his back sprouted arms, women's arms, thin and clawed, as though his dead wives were part of him still. Their faces appeared in his chest, screaming, weeping, begging to be freed. The villagers fell to their knees. Some fainted. Some tore out their eyes rather than look. The hunter was no longer a hunter. He was a gate, a living doorway. The elder rose to her feet, trembling but unbroken. She shouted to the villagers, "If we do nothing, he will consume us all. The land, the rivers, the sky itself will belong to them. Only blood can bind the door, blood offered freely, not taken by force." The people wailed. No one moved until a small voice broke the silence. It was a little girl. She stepped forward, clutching a broken clay doll. Her eyes were steady, her voice calm. "If my blood can save them, then take it." The elder's face crumbled. She begged the child to stop, but the girl only smiled. "Better I die once than all of us die forever." The villagers wept as the girl was brought forward. Even the creatures paused, their heads tilting, their eyes gleaming in the moonlight. The hunter roared, his voice splitting the sky. "No, she is mine! All wombs are mine!" But the elder drew her knife. She carved a circle in the earth, chanting words so old the trees bent to listen. The child knelt within the circle, unafraid. She whispered to the elder, "Do it quickly." And just as the knife was raised, the hunter lunged. The hunter lunged, faster than any man should move. His claws tore through the circle of protection, scattering the dust, breaking the sacred boundary. The elder screamed, driving her knife downward, but she missed. The child was snatched away, gripped by hands too many, hands sprouting from the hunter's chest, his back, his sides. Each hand was a wife's hand, pale, rotting, trembling as they clutched the girl. The hunter bellowed, "Her blood will be mine. She will bear not life, but death eternal." The creatures shrieked in unison, their laughter twisting into hunger. The villagers scattered, hope collapsing like dry thatch in a storm. And then it began. The hunter's body split fully, bursting like an overripe fruit. From within crawled something vast, something layered with flesh and bone, not meant for this earth. His wives' faces covered his torso, their mouths opening in a chorus of cries. Their bellies swelled, bulged, and tore, spilling forth more creatures, each wriggling, screaming, clawing their way into the night. The hunter's head stretched taller, his jaw unhinged, his eyes burning like coals. He was no longer a man, nor even a monster. He was a hive, a vessel, a walking womb of the damned. The ground cracked beneath his steps. The air reeked of iron and decay. And above the madness, his voice thundered. "The wombs of the dead are my kingdom. The children of rot shall inherit the earth." Huts fell as the creatures spread. Flames caught and raced through thatch and wood. The cries of villagers merged with the shrieks of the beasts until no one could tell which belonged to the living, which to the dead. The elder fought to regain control of the circle, bleeding from her hands as she drew fresh lines into the soil. She shouted for the villagers to return, to finish the sacrifice. But the people were broken. Some drowned themselves in the river rather than face the creatures. Others ran into the forest, never to be seen again. And still, the little girl screamed within the monster's grip, her small hands beating uselessly against its many limbs. The elder wept, for the only pure blood left willing to bind the gate was slipping away. Then, something happened the elder had not foreseen. The girl stopped struggling. Her eyes fluttered closed. Her lips began to whisper, Not prayers the elder had taught her, but something older, something darker. The hunter froze, his many heads tilted, his wives' mouths fell silent. And in the hush that followed, the girl's voice grew louder. The words she spoke were not of this earth. They were the cries of the unborn, the language of wombs that never saw daylight. The hunter staggered. His flesh rippled as though his own children rebelled inside him. His wives' faces twisted in pain, their eyes wide with terror. The elder gasped, realizing too late. The girl was not just a child. She was something else. Something sent to the village for this very night. The girl opened her eyes, glowing white, inhuman, merciless. And she said, "You thought I would save you, but I came to finish what he began." The hunter roared in triumph. The creatures howled. The earth itself trembled. For the sacrifice was never meant to close the gate. It was meant to open it wider. The villagers watched, paralyzed, as the little girl floated above the hunter's grasp. Her small body glowed faintly, her hair whipping in a wind that did not blow. Her voice no longer sounded like a child's. It was layered, deep and shrill, as though 1,000 unborn mouths spoke through her. She stretched out her arms, and the creatures bowed. Even the hunter bent low, his monstrous form trembling before her. The elder fell to her knees, sobbing. She whispered, "We thought she was a savior, but she is the mother of them all." The earth split beneath the girl's feet. Cracks tore across the ground, glowing with sickly light. From within came the sound of weeping, not human, not animal, but endless, as though every child ever lost in the womb now cried together. The trees withered, the river turned black, the huts collapsed into ash, and then the sky itself shuddered. Stars dimmed, the moon bled red. The hunter raised his many arms in worship. His wives screamed in agony and ecstasy. The creatures danced upon the corpses of the villagers, their laughter sharp as broken glass. The girl's eyes burned like suns. Her voice thundered. From the womb to the grave, from silence to scream, all life belongs to us. Yet, one voice remained. The elder, broken, bleeding, her hair matted with ash, dragged herself forward. She raised her knife once more. Her voice cracked but did not fail. "If no one else will end this, then let my blood seal it. Take me, spirits. Let my death close the gate." She plunged the blade into her own chest. Blood poured into the soil. For a heartbeat, the earth quieted. The cracks slowed. The creatures shrieked in confusion. The girl tilted her head, her glow flickering. For a moment, she looked like a child again. For a moment, it seemed hope might return. But then, the hunter laughed. He bent low, his many mouths whispering, "Old fool, do you not see? Your blood is tainted. You are too close to the grave. Only pure blood binds. Yours only feeds us more." The elder gasped, her body collapsing beside the knife. The girl lowered her gaze to the dying woman, and with a smile soft as dawn, she whispered, "Sleep, grandmother. Your village sleeps with you." Her eyes flared white once more. The ground roared open. A flood of creatures poured forth, tiny, clawed, eyeless things crawling into the world. The last sound the village ever heard was not screaming, not laughter, but the cries of newborns. Hundreds of them, thousands, crying, hungry, waiting. So that is how the village vanished. A hunter's pride, a child's secret, and a curse that still whispers in the night. If this story sent chills down your spine, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next tale.